So, Forrest, first of all, I want to start with the treasure. What made you decide to make a treasure and go and hide it and start all this 10 years ago?
In 1988, I had what everybody thought was terminal cancer. I lost a kidney. My doctors told me I had a 20% chance of living 3 years, and I thought I was going to die. Well, the odds said I was going to die, and I've been the kind of person that never believed anything that I heard or read, and I told myself, who says I can't take it with me? If I've got to go, I'm going to take it with me, and heck with everybody else. And so I found this beautiful little treasure chest, cast bronze, and I started filling it up with wonderful things. All of them gold. Hundreds of gold nuggets. 2 of them are as big as a hen egg, and 265 rubies. There's emeralds and sapphires and diamonds in that thing. They're wonderful ancient Chinese jade carvings, little jade figures that are absolutely wonderful. And there are a lot of pre-Columbian gold jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, and that sort of thing. And I filled this chest up with that. And I decided that if I was going to die, I was just going to give other people the same opportunity that I've had for the last 75 years, the opportunity to go out and collect things. If you can find the treasure chest, it's yours. And I wrote a book, The Thrill of the Chase, and in the book there's a poem that has 9 clues in it. If you can figure out the clues, they will take you to the treasure chest. And there's been an enormous number of people have taken me up on that, and very rewarding to me. And one thing led to another, and here we are today, 10 years later. Nobody has found a treasure chest, but a lot of people are still looking.
I find it amazing that the first thing you thought, or at least one of your thoughts when you thought you were going to die, was to create a chest for somebody else to find.
I had several motives. Yeah, that was one of them. But we're an obese society today, and I worry about our youth, our young people, and I wanted to get them off the couch, out of the game room, and out into the Rocky Mountains to smell the sunshine and experience nature. A lot of them have never been in the mountains, the eastern people, and that was one of my motives. And there was a writer from Texas called me on the phone. She had read my book, and she said, "Mr. Fenn, that's a very strange book." She said, "Who is your audience for a book like that, the treasure chest story?" I said, "My audience is every redneck in Texas that has a pickup truck, lost his job, and 10 or 12 kids, put them in the back of the truck and go search for my treasure. If you got some bedrolls and a bottle of water, well, head out." And that was what I wanted. That was one of my motives. But additionally, this country was going into a recession 10 years ago, and despair was written all over the headlines in all the papers, and I wanted to give people hope and something to look forward to. If you're willing to work for it, maybe there is a pot of gold at the end of your rainbow if you'll go out there and look for it.
So I read somewhere that you said that the place that you hid this is not so difficult to find. If you were able to go out there and hide that, people can go get it, can go find it.
I was 79 or 80 years old when I hid that treasure chest. It's not in a dangerous place.
But a lot of people have not paid attention to that and have gone off. And some of these people, there have been some who have even lost their lives. And from what I understand, they didn't need to do that. Why are they doing that? I mean,
I don't know, to answer your question. It's tragic that happened. But I would urge people to know where you're going. Let somebody know that you're going in there and where you're going, when you're going to come out. Take some water, take some food, take your cell phone, take your GPS. The mountains can be terribly unforgiving to those who don't respect what they are and what they can do. Thunderstorms in the wintertime in the mountains are terrible. I mean, nothing is colder than a thunderstorm in the Rocky Mountains.
Somebody told me the reason why a lot of people don't tell people where they're going is because of greed. They don't want to tell people where they're going because they're thinking, oh, if I find the chest, I don't want people to know where I'm going. And I think this is kind of silly, but it's greed at the end of the day.
I think it's arrogance in its greatest blossom. People don't need to think about that. I mean, your safety is paramount. The treasure chest is got to be secondary, and a lot of people don't. I get a lot of emails from people that tell me they're going to write me a letter and tell me where the treasure chest is because they don't trust the internet. I get 8 or 10 of those emails every day from people. It's very interesting how, and everybody is different. Everybody has a different place to look. Their attitude is different, and I would encourage people not to spend more money than you can afford to spend. And there are people that have done that, and it's really tragic. I regret that.
Your poem has 9 clues. Some people have said to me that, these clues are just the beginning. You don't know Forrest. Forrest is a very multi-textured person. He says 9 clues, but there is much more hiding behind the 9 clues, and you need to really think deeper in between the lines. Is that true, or is the 9 clues
I've
enough?
given clues that are not in the poem. In other words, I've said it's not treasure is not hidden around any buildings. It's not in an outhouse. I mean, I say those things because people are digging up outhouses. But this lady called me, I think it was from Pittsburgh or someplace. She said, Mr. Fenn, I'm crippled and I really can't go. Can you give me one more clue to help me? And I said, yes. She was from Toledo. And I said, the treasure chest is hidden more than 300 miles west of Toledo. And that satisfied her. She said, thank you, Mr. Fenn. She hung up the phone. So, I am giving some, if not clues, at least hints as to, these things are not going to help you find a treasure, but it narrows it down a little bit. But I get all kinds of calls. This one lady told me that she was from back east. She had an old beat-up pickup truck, and she didn't know whether it was going to get to Santa Fe or not. But she said, if I can get to Santa Fe in my pickup truck, will you put me in your car and take me the rest of the distance out to the treasure?
What did you say to that?
I made some innocuous comment to her that satisfied her.
Have you seen changes in the town? Have you seen people coming down here looking for that treasure in these past 10 years?
The question is, have I noticed that
Have there been a lot of people coming in?
The city gave me a proclamation because the occupancy rate in the motels in Santa Fe was up 6% 2 years in a row, and nobody could figure out why. The city thinks that the treasure. Yeah, I mean, I'm selling a lot of meals in the cafes and motel rooms and airplane tickets, and we brought you to Santa Fe, and you flew out here, and you're going to have a couple of meals and stay in a motel. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about.
You said in the beginning that you wanted to give people the satisfaction of finding something because you yourself dedicated your life looking for things finding things. Tell me about that.
Well, I've always been a collector. I found my first arrowhead when I was 9, and that started me off on a wonderful adventure, a lifetime adventure of looking for things, and I'm thrilled. I own a big Indian ruin out here, San Lazaro Pueblo, and I love to go out there and look in the anthills because the ants bring prehistoric ancient beads up and deposit them on the surface while they're building their little tunnels. I love to do things like that, but I've always been, since I was 9 years old, I've spent a lot of time looking at the ground. I walked out of the First National Bank here in Santa Fe years ago, and I looked on the cement in front of me, and there was a diamond laying there. I I thought it was a fake diamond, or wasn't a real diamond, but it turned out to be a 2.5 carat diamond. My wife has it wearing around her neck now, but my eyes have always been on the ground, and my anticipations have been on the horizon. I don't know where I got that comment, but I think that describes me a little bit.
And you have been a guide since the age of 9, right?
I was a fishing guide at ages 12 and 13 in West Yellowstone. I took fishermen out in Yellowstone Park and around the lakes and rivers around West Yellowstone, Hebgen Lake, and all the rivers. And there's a lot of places to fish up there. And when I was a little kid, I knew every fish by name. There was Phyllis and John and Mabel and.
And how have you amassed all this collection? Okay, you're very modest to talk about how you have always focused, had your eyes on the ground, looked for things, but the things that surround you, talk about somebody who has really grabbed life by the horns and done things I'm sure you did not sit and think sometimes, I need to think this through. I'm sure you operated with your gut to do some of these things.
I'm glad you asked me that question, because it gives me the opportunity to tell you that I see myself as somebody that's always lived out on the edge. How do you know where the edge is if you don't go out there and look? So many people today walk right down the center line. They never get off the center line, and I think they're missing their turn by not taking a chance. You know, I never wanted to break the law, but I sure as hell stretched it a few times, and I think that's a description of who I am and what my personality is.
And how about Vietnam? You went out there. Were you drafted? Did you want to go?
I volunteered to go to Vietnam in 1968. I had taught the gunnery school at Luke Air Force Base. I was an instructor pilot, and I was one of about 100 pilots that were the most qualified fighter pilots in the world. But I'd never been in combat, and I volunteered to go to Vietnam in 1968, and I flew 328 combat missions in about 340 days. I flew 374 combat missions in the F-100. I was shot down twice. I took battle damage. I lost roommates. I lost 22 pounds and didn't know it. I mean, this was a big year in my life. That was 1968.
How many times have you cheated death?
5 or 6. It's hard to fly fighter airplanes for 18 years and do it successfully. I crash landed one time in Vietnam. I was shot down, ejected from an F-100 in Laos. I landed with no landing gear in Châteauroux, France one time. The nose gear came down, the main gear wouldn't come down, so that was another time. But there were other times when I was flying. My early career, I was flying the F-86D. It held a world speed record at that time. And there were 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 things that happened to me in that couple of years that I didn't have a 10% chance of living, but I always walked away. And I've always thought there's a higher hand someplace. There's a couple of eyes looking out for me.
So you believe in a higher power?
Yes, I do. I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual. My church is out in the trees and along the river bottoms and across the mountain passes, and that's where I like to be. And my collection here manifests itself in that direction as I see it.
What do you want to give people? It's possible that this treasure may not be found yet. It may be found 50 years from now. We may not be around.
Well, the Rosetta Stone was buried 2,000 years before it was found. It's possible that my treasure chest could be found this afternoon, or it could be 100 years or 500 years. Who knows? It's not predictable. It's not in a dangerous place, and it's hard to find, deliberately hard to find, but it certainly isn't impossible. You have to go back to the poem. If you have to find out where the first clue is, where warm waters halt. That's the first clue, and then take it from there. The clues are chronological. After that, one leads to another, and when you get to the ninth clue, look down, because you're where the treasure chest is.
If the treasure is not found, people are still looking for it. What do you think you are giving these people who are looking for it and may never find it?
Yes, but look what they did find. They found a wonderful experience in the mountains. They observed what nature in its finest moment out there, and there were several tragedies, but there have been 300,000 or 400,000 people searched the Rocky Mountains with their families, and they went home with a wonderful experience and weren't any worse off than a few mosquito bites and that sort of thing, scratches on the strawberry bushes or whatever. There's a lot to be said for getting out in the mountains, and that was. If I've ever been successful in my life, that I've been successful in taking people off their couch and out of the game room and out into the mountains. I'm very proud of that.
You should be. The things you include in the treasure chest, where did you collect them from? All those gold nuggets and the jewelry?
Well, I spent 15 years collecting that stuff. And you find gold nuggets at gun shows, at arrowhead shows, in antique shops, different places. The gold coins, it took me a long time to get gold. 265 gold coins. Some of those gold coins are from the Middle East, and they're dated in the 1500s. So I wanted a collection that was not only visual, but it was valuable enough to want people to put some gas in the pickup truck and go out there and look for it. That was my motive.
And there is one item that you have told people who are looking for it that you would like to purchase it back.
Well, Richard Wetherell discovered Mesa Verde, and the first time he climbed down the cliffs and walked in to meet the ancient Pueblo cliff dwelling of Mesa Verde, he picked up 22 little turquoise beads, and a couple of years later, an Indian working for him, excavating Mesa Verde, made a bracelet out of those 22 beads. It's a silver bracelet inlaid with these 22 turquoise beads. Well, a friend of mine Richard Wetherell later sold that to Fred Harvey, the Harvey houses, the hotels, and I won that bracelet from a relative of Fred Harvey's. I won it in a pool game, and it fits me perfectly. And when I had filled the treasure chest up with all of these things, I sat back and I told myself, but there was something missing. I didn't feel like I was part of the treasure chest. I mean, it's an abstract thing that was. I felt a distance from that thing, but I wanted to be closer to it. And I thought, if I put that bracelet, I love that bracelet. It has a great history. If I put that bracelet in there and close the lid, I could tell myself, yeah, I'm in that treasure chest with everything else, so I'm a part of it. And I feel that was a signature moment for me when I closed that chest. My whole attitude toward it had changed.
Wow.
And I put out the word, I'd like to have it back. And I've had thousands of emails from people that say, Mr. Fenn, when I find that treasure chest, I'm going to bring you that bracelet back. It's worth about $300 or $400. It's the cheapest thing in that treasure chest.
That's amazing. Finally, my last question is, Aren't you afraid that some people can try to abduct you or try to make you tell them where the treasure is? Aren't you afraid of your safety?
Well, I've got 911 3 times at my gate out here. People were arrested breaking in. There was a guy broke in my guest house where my grandson is living. He took an axe and broke the glass window and was stealing things when we caught him. When's the last time you held a loaded gun on somebody?
I haven't.
Well, we did that. My daughter and I did that. And there's another man that said that your granddaughter is your treasure and I'm coming for her. He's been in prison for 3.5 years, and he goes on trial again next month. He's going to get another 3 or 4 years. I mean, I think some people look at the treasure chest like they look at gambling in Las Vegas. You know, I'm entitled to this. I'm going to do whatever I have to do because I've spent all this time. I've spent this money looking for it. It's mine, and that they become zealots as a result of that. And I would urge people, don't ever get into that mode. It's not a good place to be. I had that treasure chest for the fun of it. I had written, I think, 7 or 8 books before I wrote The Thrill of the Chase and introduced the treasure story. And I didn't know that anybody would read my book. I tell people my parents were dead. Who's going to read my book? I printed the first edition, and the printer wouldn't let me print less than that. I really wanted 500 copies, and it would be more than I could sell in a lifetime. But Margie Goldsmith, a writer in Manhattan, wrote a story for what's the name? Hemispheres magazine. It's behind the seat in every United airplane. And here's people on the airplane for 2 hours. They're captives. They don't have it. They read the story that Margie Goldsmith wrote about the treasure and where I hid it and that sort of thing. The next day I got 1,200 emails. I mean, it shut my server down. And that was what lit the fuse that is the treasure chest story today.
What advice would you give somebody about life, how to live one's life, especially somebody who may have faced the fear of death? Somebody who has gone through the fear of being sick and fearing that they have given that person a bad diagnosis, or like in your case, the fear of dying. What advice would you give?
I'm glad you asked me that question because I have a whole philosophy about that. Your life was given to you. Be sure that you use it properly. I'm a calculated person, but I tell people that I live on the edge, and that's where I want to be. There are so many things out there to do. Why not try to do all of them? I hear movie stars on television. Well, sir, you're 80 years old. What would you do if you had your life to live over again? And they say, I wouldn't change a thing. My life is perfect. I'm just the opposite. I would change everything except my family. Why do the same things over again? I mean, I could be a blacksmith. I could be a fishing guide. I would love to be a professional golfer. I mean, I could name 10,000. I would be the world's greatest pianist. The world's greatest pianist if it were not for talent. Because I have everything else, mostly desire. I'm willing, I'm a hard worker. But you can't do everything. But find out what you're good at and exploit whatever that is. And if you haven't been consumed, if you have not been consumed by something in your lifetime, you deserve another turn. I was consumed by collecting arrowheads. I'm still an avid fisherman. And I've been consumed by a few things, and I'm very rewarded as a result of that. I see people who are sedentary. I mean, they commute to work 30 minutes in the car. They wait in traffic. They work for 8 hours, and they get a pizza on the way home. I mean, to me, they're wasting their life. And I've always thought if you're not happy in your marriage or happy in your job, then get out. The sooner the better. The sooner the better, particularly if you're not happy in your job. You just waste away for what? Enough money to buy groceries and go to the movie once in a while, and that's how you spend your life. I hate that. The very thought of that is repugnant to me.
You know what makes me love my job? I have a lot of problems with my job. But what makes a difference in my life about my job is moments like this.
Good for you.
I would like to ask you to read me your poem.
Okay. I had this memorized for a long time. I'm not...
That's fine. If you don't remember it by heart, that's okay.
Dorothy, why don't you just come back here so I can go wider.
Tell me where.
I'll just move this back. That way I can go wider. And he's not really looking totally towards you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, give me a second here.
Are we rolling?
Just give me a sec for him to go a little wider.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I'm looking for my poem in my book here, but I came across an epitaph that I wrote for myself years ago. I wish I could have lived to do the things I was attributed to. And I love that because I've done a lot of things. I was a fighter pilot for 18 years, and I had a good business, and I was visual for a lot. I had 4 guest houses at my gallery. I always had movie stars. President Ford stayed there, Jackie Kennedy, and so I was very visual. And as a result of that, I've been accused of everything. And so I wrote this epitaph one day. I was feeling sorry for myself, and I said, I wish I could have lived to do the things I was attributed to, and I like that. Okay, I can read that.
Oh, you found it? Okay.
Okay. This is another memoir. Are we rolling, Mike?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasure's bowl, I can keep my secrets where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down, not far, but too far to walk, but in below the home of Brown. From there it's no place for the meek, the end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease, but tarry scant with marble gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. So why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek? The answers I already know. I've done it tired and now I'm weak. So hear me all and listen good. Your effort will be worth the cold. If you are brave and in the wood, I give you title to the gold.
Thank you.